I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough.
Jaguar Wright's dramatic arrival and the profound impact she would bring to the fate of Bryshere Gray. This was the seismic shockwave that ripped through the Los Angeles courtroom at precisely 2:17 p.m. PT on Tuesday, June 10, 2025. The air was already thick with anticipation as news cameras, a restless swarm, jostled outside the Grand Oak doors, their lenses fixed. Inside, the hushed murmurs of the gallery barely masked the tremor of expectation for Sean "Diddy" Combs' ongoing trial, his formidable empire visibly crumbling under intense public scrutiny. Yet, what no one expected was her. A sudden commotion near the entrance drew every eye. There, striding with defiant grace, was Wright. Her very name sent a jolt through anyone familiar with the raw, uncompromising honesty she had used to expose the darkest corners of the music industry. She was a force of nature, a modern-day Cassandra whose warnings, long dismissed as the ravings of a disgruntled artist, were now chillingly validated by the torrent of lawsuits engulfing Combs. The immediate question wasn't just about Diddy anymore, but how Jaguar Wright's unforeseen presence would reshape the path for Bryshere Gray in this high-stakes legal battle. Jaguar Wright was not alone. She clutched the unmarked yellow envelopes, their plain appearance hiding explosive secrets. As she approached the prosecution table, her expression cold and determined, she paused, her dagger-like gaze sweeping across the defense table where Diddy sat silently. "These," she announced, her voice resonating clearly across the courtroom without a trace of trepidation. Her hands held the envelopes high. "For the record, for justice!" A collective gasp swept through the courtroom. The envelopes contained previously unreleased tapes, rumored to be the key to unlocking a deeper, more sinister layer of mystery about Diddy's alleged crimes. The tapes focused on Bryshere Gray, the former star of Empire. The thought shook the courtroom. If Wright's allegations are true, Diddy's long shadow extends not only into the adult world of industry power plays, but also into the fragile, formative years of a vulnerable young talent, namely when Gray was just 17. The stage is set for the truth about Bryshere Gray's past, protected by Jaguar Wright, to finally come to light. Bryshere Gray, the young man who shot to stardom as Hakeem Lyon on Empire, was once the embodiment of the Hollywood dream. Just 17 and full of ambition when he entered the industry, Gray was quickly drawn into the glittering allure and seductive promises of those in power. Among them, Sean "Diddy" Combs emerged as a seemingly benevolent, godlike figure. Diddy was more than just a music mogul. He also appointed himself as a mentor to many young talents, including Gray. Invitations to lavish parties at Diddy's mansion became a regular occurrence around 2010-2012. For the naive Bryshere, these were gateways to a world of superstardom, relationships that promised to catapult him to the pinnacle of success. "You're going to be the biggest star," Diddy had told Gray, his voice full of authority, his hand patting Bryshere's shoulder. "But you have to learn to fit in this business. It has its own rules." Gray trusted him completely, unaware that those rules would soon turn into a living nightmare. At the same time, Jaguar Wright was no stranger to the entertainment industry. She was a talented musician in her own right, but more than that, she was a real big sister and mentor to Bryshere. From the very beginning, Wright had noticed a change in Gray's eyes, an unshakable worry whenever he mentioned Diddy and his mysterious parties. She had tried to warn Gray many times, urging him to escape that toxic circle. "Bryshere," she advised him late one evening in 2011, her voice laced with worry, "be careful with those empty promises. This business is full of devils disguised as angels." She took his hand, her eyes fixed on his. "Trust me, don't get caught up in it." But Gray, so young and caught up in the whirlwind of fame, didn't listen. On a night of false glamour in early 2012, just as Bryshere Gray was turning 18, Diddy's palatial Beverly Hills mansion became the stage for a special party. The air was filled with pounding music. Strategically placed dim lights masked the true nature of the event, and a constellation of famous faces moved through a smokescreen, a glittering mask designed to distract from the corruption that was lurking within. Bryshere, with his youthful good looks and raw, untapped talent, found himself drawn into the vortex. He heard whispers. "You gotta fit in if you want to be a star, Bryshere. Don't worry, everyone does it." Under the insidious influence of peer pressure, malicious whispers, and perhaps even a cocktail of subtle disorientation, he was drawn, step by terrifying step, into a situation more dangerous and vile than any young man could have imagined. In a private, luxurious, discreetly furnished room, unacceptable behavior allegedly occurred. Diddy, the alleged director of this sick drama, committed acts that crossed the line of morality with Gray. A rising talent left completely defenseless, his bright future momentarily overshadowed by his terrifying weakness. Gray recalled Diddy's chilling whispers in his ear, full of power and menace. "This is how the road to success is paved, Bryshere. Stay quiet, and you'll have everything." Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, Diddy remained unaware of a silent, invisible witness. This was not a deliberate trap set by an enemy. No, the universe, with its own dark humor, intervened. A hidden recording device, a memento left behind by a meticulous sound technician testing the mansion's complex sound system that afternoon, had been overlooked. It lay dormant, a silent sentinel, until the eerie whispers, growls, and terrifying conversations that took place in that room were inadvertently recorded, every painful moment preserved in an unsuspecting digital memory. Years later, as Diddy's carefully constructed public image began to crack under the relentless pressure of lawsuits that loomed in early 2025, a mysterious, ghost-like figure emerged from the shadows. This individual, a former associate of Diddy's, had kept the deadly tape for years, its existence a burning secret that had fed a lifetime of torment and paralyzing fear. "I've seen what Diddy can do," this associate used to mutter to themselves on sleepless nights. "No one's safe if I speak up." They had witnessed the ruthless power of Diddy's empire, and the potential consequences of exposure had bound them. But then came Cassie Ventura's bold lawsuit, a thunderclap that echoed across Hollywood, followed by a series of revelations that tore apart the industry's gilded cage. Witnessing this unprecedented display of courage, the anonymous source, driven by a glimmer of hope and a deep need for justice, finally contacted Jaguar Wright. They whispered over the phone to Wright, their voice trembling. "I have what you need. Proof. It'll end everything." The hunt for Jaguar's tape was no less arduous. As soon as word of her interest spread, she became a target. Anonymous threats emanated from the digital realm. Sinister whispers warned her to back off. "You'll regret getting involved, Jaguar," a distorted voice hissed over the phone one night. "Back off before it's too late." The forces of obstruction, the silent guardians of Hollywood's darkest secrets and Diddy's crumbling empire, launched a relentless campaign to deflect her. They were the gatekeepers of a corrupt system, determined to keep the truth from her. But Jaguar Wright, a woman forged in the fire, refused to budge. Each anonymous call, each digital attack only strengthened her resolve. She immersed herself in the tape, playing it over and over again, each agonizing sound, each whisper twisting her gut into a knot of cold dread. "My God, Bryshere!" she whispered, her hand clamped over her mouth as the events echoed in her ears. She knew with terrifying certainty that this tape was irrefutable evidence, a deadly, irrefutable indictment that could bring Diddy's empire crashing down. Yet she also understood the terrible price it would cost. It would simultaneously tear open Bryshere Gray's raw, excruciating wounds, exposing his deepest pain to a world that routinely consumed suffering for entertainment. The moral dilemma was suffocating, but the truth, she knew, demanded its payment. "We have to do this," she told herself, her voice hardening with resolve, no matter the cost. In the dark days that followed the events captured on that secret tape, Diddy's manipulation of Bryshere Gray began relentlessly, a ruthless psychological campaign designed to ensure silence and compliance. His threats were more than vague warnings of career ruin. They were delivered with cold precision, allegedly using the tape itself as a cudgel, a constant, vicious reminder of Gray's weakness. He sought more than just control of Gray's career. He sought to control his nature, his will, his ability to free himself. Jaguar Wright, a vigilant and sympathetic observer, witnessed this heartbreaking decline with her own eyes. She tried again and again to penetrate the wall of fear and shame Bryshere had built around herself. "Bryshere, I can't go on like this," she cried, her voice choked with despair, in a late-night phone call in late 2023 after another news of Gray's arrest had broken. She heard Bryshere gasp for breath. "You have to tell me what's destroying you, brother. I'll be here. I believe in you." But each time he would cringe, his shoulders shaking, overwhelmed by a crushing shame, a paralyzing fear of Diddy's revenge. He would whisper, his voice barely audible, "You don't understand, Jaguar. You don't understand. He'll destroy me. He's already destroyed me." Then he would hang up, leaving Jaguar in a heavy silence, a heartbreaking sigh. On the night of June 9th, 2025, just hours before she was due in court, Jaguar Wright made one final pivotal call to Bryshere. Her voice, though firm, was also filled with deep compassion and love. "Bryshere," she began, her words soft but firm, "I know the immeasurable pain you've endured. I've seen it. I've heard it. But it's time. It's time to break this vicious cycle. I have the evidence. The tape will expose him. You're not alone. I need you. Not just for your own freedom, but for the countless others he's twisted and destroyed." On the other end of the line, in the stifling silence of his own tortured mind, Bryshere Gray held his breath. He gripped the phone tightly, his knuckles white. He had lived in a golden cage of fear for too long. Wright's words, spoken with such unwavering conviction, were like a powerful ray of light piercing the oppressive darkness that had enveloped his mind for so many years. His gaze strayed to an old beloved photograph from his Empire days, a youthful face, eyes clear and full of unblemished hope, a stark contrast to the haunted man he had become. He yearned for that life, that innocence, to reclaim the future that had been stolen from him. He clutched the phone. Jaguar's words echoed in his head. For the countless others he had twisted and destroyed. Images of other young, raw faces he had seen at those parties flashed through his mind. The truth, however terrible, was no longer about him. It was about all of them. His breathing was heavy, but this time, he didn't panic. It was the awakening of something else. I will, Gray whispered, his voice hoarse with a rough, vague emotion, a thin hint of defiance. "I will testify. I will tell you everything." The air in the Los Angeles courtroom on June 11, 2025, crackled with anticipation. News of Bryshere Gray's impending testimony had spread like wildfire. All eyes turned as Gray entered, gaunt but with unyielding determination in his eyes. He took the witness stand, facing Sean "Diddy" Combs, who sat at the defense table, his nonchalance barely concealing anxiety. Prosecutor Lisa Maxwell began her questioning. "Mr. Gray, please describe what happened that night." Gray took a deep breath. "Around March 2012, he started, his voice initially trembling but growing stronger. Diddy invited me to his mansion. He called it an important networking party, but it wasn't. He detailed being allegedly drugged, Diddy's abhorrent actions, and his own terror. As Gray recounted each detail, the courtroom fell silent. Diddy's face went ashen, his eyes flickering with anger and panic. His lawyer, Mr. Richard Thorne, immediately objected, but the judge overruled him. "Your Honor, we have corroborating evidence," Prosecutor Maxwell announced, holding up a playback device. "We request to play an excerpt from the audio recording found at Mr. Combs' mansion." The large screen lit up and the audio played. Faint music and muffled laughter shifted to Diddy's chilling whispers, Gray's faint struggles, and indescribable sounds. The audio echoed through the courtroom, chilling listeners to the bone. Gasps and muffled cries erupted from the audience. Diddy leaped from his chair, face flushed. "This is fake! It's all fake!" he roared, trying to discredit the evidence. Mr. Thorne tried to pull him back, but Diddy was almost out of control. "Order in the court!" The judge hammered his gavel. Prosecutor Maxwell turned to Gray. "Mr. Gray, after reviewing this evidence, do you have anything to add?" Gray looked directly at Diddy, his eyes filled with rage and pain. "He ruined my life," he said, his voice echoing. "He took my innocence. He made me live in hell for years. He has to pay." Lawyer Thorne immediately began his cross-examination, attempting to undermine Gray's testimony, pointing to his past legal troubles. "Mr. Gray, did you frequently use illicit substances? Do you clearly remember everything, or is this merely a fabricated accusation for revenge?" Gray faced him with unwavering resolve. "I was lost, yes," he admitted, "but that was a consequence of what he did to me, and that night I remember every single second." Jaguar Wright, sitting in the gallery, clenched her fists. She knew this was the final battle, and Bryshere was now fighting for himself. Afternoon sunlight poured through the high windows of the courtroom, tiny dust particles dancing in the air. As Bryshere Gray left the witness stand, each step seemed to lift an invisible burden that had weighed him down for years. He looked up at Jaguar Wright sitting in the front row, their eyes meeting, a flicker of gratitude and quiet relief. Tears rolled down Wright's cheeks, not of weakness, but of relief and pride. Outside, chants of "Justice for Bryshere" echoed in, mingling with the incessant clicking of cameras. Jaguar Wright stood outside the courthouse, surrounded by reporters who continued to ask questions. She looked directly into the camera, her voice booming but determined. "This is not just my victory. This is a victory for all the voices that have been silenced." She became an icon, an inspiration to countless others, with her resilience and courage in pursuing justice. The story of Gray and Diddy is more than just the downfall of one individual. It has sparked a larger conversation about the dark secrets of Hollywood. Young people, wounded talent, have found the courage to speak out, creating a wave of resistance to abuse and silence. Major studios and record labels are now forced to reconsider their policies to protect their artists. The sunset has fallen, dyeing the Los Angeles sky purple. Although the darkness of the past remains, a new dawn is on the horizon. A dawn in which, no matter how powerful, the truth will finally be revealed, and the voices of those who have been harmed will finally be heard.